This is the Meaning Business Podcast, your go-to source for business tips, advice, growth, and exit strategies, hosted by Bruce Kudry and Peter Spinder. Each episode, we bring you real stories, expert insights, and practical advice to help you succeed in today's market. Let's dive in.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Bruce.
I have some headlines here. Business news headlines.
Love some good headlines.
So we've been talking about this. So here we go. First one says, Chairman reveals trigger for Booktopia's downfall as administrators tally up $60 million in outstanding debts.
Ouch.
What the collapse of major book retailer tells us about the state of Australian publishing. Financial stress through the roof as interest rate hikes come home to roost. Olivia's small business failed and she's finding ways to deal with the financial impact. Day surgery is cancelled as patients transferred from Melbourne Private Hospital as it enters voluntary administration. Bonds' staff futures remain in limbo as administrators given more time to find a buyer. That didn't happen. One more. The cracks in Australia's economy are starting to appear as business insolvencies hit record highs. And on and on and on it goes.
So negative.
There's a lot, isn't there?
So negative. Yeah. And that's the issue that we want to talk about today. We've got a massive issue with the media, and that's that it's just negative. And that negativity fuels more negativity, and it fuels fear. It spreads the worst kind of message from my point of view. And we need to talk about that. And we need to be, we need people to be understanding the reality can be quite different compared to what you make in your mind to be.
Exactly.
Perception.
Exactly. But, you know, bad news sells. Right?
Absolutely.
So the publishers know, and it's not their fault, that when you can tell a story two different ways. I always think about it like this. If the Broncos played Melbourne and the Broncos lose, you can express that as a journalist as Broncos lose or Melbourne win. Mm-hmm. Different ways to tell the same story. But the Broncos lose story gets more views or clicks or people looking at it than the Storm win. Why is that?
The research has actually been conducted on that, and they've done lots and lots of studies over the years, and they have found that loss aversion is a much more, it's a stronger trigger compared to the positive. And so you can get two stories. One's the positive, one's the negative. The negative will drive much more viewing. It'll drive much more emotion. It'll get people to act more quickly than the positive.
Yeah, right.
It's incredible. It's just how human psyche works. And this is the problem we've got with the media then, is that the media will publish all these articles, all these things. And so there's now this perception out there that the Australian economy is down and we've got these problems in the business world, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there may be some truth, and there's, we all know that we've seen prices go up and fuel prices fluctuate. We've seen property prices go up. Buying into the property market is becoming more and more difficult. So yes, there are some negative things out there, but the reality isn't all negative. And in fact, in my experience and from what I'm seeing, there's actually three realities. One is, yes, if you're a business owner, you are truly suffering and you've got some problems, in which case you can actually do things about that. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to stay on that negative mindset.
You should be doing something.
You should be.
Don't sit back.
Second is that you might believe that it's all negative and you have this perception that things are going wrong, but in fact your perception is incorrect and the reality is actually quite different. Mm-hmm. And the third path is you're looking at that and looking around your business and you're going, well, hang on a second, I'm not sure what the media is going on about because everything's pretty good in my world and everything's pretty good in my business. I've got plenty of orders coming in and customers are happy and I've got money in the bank and my mortgage is being cared for and I've got a good home life, so I'm not sure what the media is talking about. So there's those different angles and different realities.
And it's what we're talking about really is psychology, right? What you're just talking about is the way you look at the same thing.
That's right.
Your brain will process it as either being this is normal or this is terrible.
Yep.
Or what am I going to do?
So quite often when my kids get on a bit of a negative streak, right? And maybe one of the boys or my daughter says, I'm not going to do well in my game today. And I say, okay, well, if I show you this cup and you have a look at how much tea or water is in that, tell me, is it empty or is it full? Is it closer to being empty? Is it closer to being full? Is it half empty, half full? So there's that mentality. And if you can switch that mentality and go, you know what? I'm grateful for the fact that I have tea in my cup.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you've put a positive spin and you're seeing the world in a more positive light. And the same thing in business. Now, the issue is that if we're consuming the traditional media, then we hop into social media and we're consuming that as well. The algorithms will continue to serve up what we continue to see. And that's just fact. That's just how it works.
So, exactly. And
So
it's
that
the way
fuels the negativity.
Yeah. So if we allow it psychologically to affect us, we can see that glass is half full or half empty easily, right?
Yep.
So cognitive behavioral therapy is about changing the way you process.
Yep.
So a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to go to that party because what if I don't know anyone? And what if I look like an idiot or wear the wrong clothes or, I don't know, I don't fit in. So the what can go wrong generally is what drives our thinking.
That's right.
We think about what could go wrong. But the CBT therapy sort of says, no, think about what could go right. We don't think enough about what could go right. Entrepreneurs do.
Absolutely.
Which I'll come back to. But, if we changed our thinking and say, I'm going to this party because I'm going to meet someone, I'm going to have a great time.
Yep.
You never know what. If I don't go to the party, what am I going to do? Sit at home and watch TV? I'm going to get in there and have fun. Let's go.
And you're missing out. And the same thing in business where if you're being overly negative, what ends up happening is that, first of all, your negativity will rub off on the rest of the team. So your whole sort of morale and the energy starts decreasing. With decreased energy, your customers feel it. And it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is.
But the other thing that negativity does is it blocks you from seeing opportunity. It causes you to miss out on opportunities, to miss out on things that may have happened. You might think, okay, well, the world's about to fall apart, irrespective of it being incorrect or correct.
Yes.
In your situation,
Yes.
you then pull back on your spending, you pull back on the marketing, you pull back on investing into your business, pull back on advisory services, whatever it might be. And then, of course...
Pretty soon you're pulling back so much you're not there.
Right. You pull back for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And then you realize, I've just lost my competitive edge because someone else has gone forward. Why? Because they saw the opportunity. They're like, you know what? Everyone else is all being negative, but that's not the reality. In my world, it's all positive. So let's use that energy and the momentum.
Exactly. And that's the power of positive thinking is so powerful. I've just recently dealt with a guy. He's come from overseas. He's sold a business. He's got about, $1 million. And he's been looking at buying this business, which is $10 million. Now, everybody, including the seller, is saying, wasting our time, can't get the funding. Why are you bringing him here? So enthusiastic, so positive, doesn't see negatives. I'm trying to be realistic and look at this, but this guy is so enthusiastic. Guess what? Got the funding. 100% funded.
Yep.
Not all bank funding, but family and other reasons. He is so positive. Everyone's come on board and they want to get on that journey with him.
And he'll make that business success just
I agree.
by that energy, just by that factor.
He said to me and some other people, he said, I've got nothing else in my world at the moment. I'm going to live, eat, sleep, breathe that business. I'm going to be there in the office 24/7. And I believe it.
Yep.
He comes from overseas in a poor country where, not India, Middle East, where, you've really got no choices in life. And here he's in the land of plenty. He's got so much opportunity. He took the original business that he came here with nothing and sold that business for $1 million. That's where he got plus he owns a house. That's where he's got the money from to start with. He's got a very good chance of making it work.
You said something there. So this is the other thing that I say to my kids. Sometimes they complain about, kids being kids, they complain about something. And I said, listen, just so you know, the life that you live here is actually not the norm. The majority of people in the world don't live the quality of life that we have over here in Australia, living in Brisbane, and quality of weather, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to deal with certain things that other people around the world have to deal with. So it's that perception that you have, and that perception drives your version of your reality. Now, if you're a business owner where, you're in that sort of negative phase and you are looking at everything in quite a negative way, first thing I say to you is, look, you've got to be able to pause and reflect, and you need to look at your business and actually be really realistic and truly understand, well, what is actually happening in my business? Forget what the media is saying, forget what everyone else is saying, but actually understand what is your true status.
Yeah.
What does it actually look like?
Exactly.
Because you might actually be quite surprised when you go through that, and you might realize, oh, actually, you know what? Things aren't that bad in my business. Yes, costs have gone up, but you've been able to adjust, for example. You've been able to shuffle. You've been able to evolve so that you're still profitable. You're still moving forward.
Well, actually, take it a step further. If you're in business and you don't adjust and evolve, you will not survive. It doesn't matter what you do. You have to adjust and evolve. So with COVID, we had to adjust and evolve and find ways around it. So the companies that took on Uber Eats or did delivery or found ways for people to eat their food, survive. I know we always talk about hospitality as an example, with so many other businesses as well. One business that I was dealing with during COVID, by the way, it was amazing. He made name badges
Okay.
and had contracts to do banks and so on, and also did hospitals for nurses. And real entrepreneur, right? COVID hits, he buys as many pallets of sanitizer as he can find, which is based on ethanol. And filled his warehouse, and it was a big warehouse, and made squillions because no one else could get the stuff after a while. And he had it, and he picked up more customers because they needed it and they wanted it. Sanitizer was hard to get. He got the sanitizer contract, and then he got the other stuff.
So you've just highlighted exactly what people need to do with negativity, right? So what we're saying here isn't to stop consuming the news and the media and watching what's happening. You need to do that. You've got to be on top of what's happening with politics and the world and things like that. So you've got to be realistic. But here's the way I view things. I look at a negative situation, and the question that I ask is, okay, where does the opportunity lie in this? How do I turn this into an opportunity for myself? How do I turn it into a positive? So like that gentleman, he could have gone, oh no, woe is me, I've got no more business because, COVID and I've got no more orders.
Yeah.
And instead he's looked at it and gone, I think there might be an opportunity here. And yes, it's a different product, but it doesn't matter. The fact is that he was willing to take that risk, and sometimes you've got to do that. Mm-hmm. And you've just got to evolve. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're left behind and you've got nothing left. So
exactly.
You've got to be willing to make that choice. The only way you could do that is if you can look at that negative situation and turn it around in your head and challenge yourself and go, okay, well, let's find the opportunity. Let's find the areas.
But that's where the fundamental psychology comes in. If you're walking around thinking what can go wrong, you'll find it.
Absolutely.
If you think what can go right, you'll find the opportunity in every situation. So we've got to sort of switch our thinking to what could go right. And that's how entrepreneurs, I believe, think. Richard Branson, when he got started and bought all those jets and got going, he never thought about what could go wrong. He only thought about how this is going to work out.
Keep pushing forward.
Yeah, there was no negativity in his brain at all. And I'll guarantee he didn't read the papers in those days.
I think a lot of us, you go through periods where, and I know I'm in one of those periods at the moment where I'm actually avoiding the media because I just need to be able to focus in a very positive way. I understand what's happening, but I need to focus in a more positive way. And too much negativity does wear down.
Oh, yeah.
But this is where having someone to talk to and having a coach, a mentor, an advisor, having a friend that you can call in on and have those conversations is so
A husband
paramount.
or a wife, yeah.
Yes, pull you out of those ruts that you're in.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't got that,
Yeah, exactly.
you're in your own head.
So I was in a bit of a funk this morning. I was a bit angry, right?
Yeah.
And I spoke to you, and we both said just talking about it makes it better, and it did.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And you don't have to. The person that you're talking to doesn't have to agree with you, but just getting it off your chest.
That's enough.
Sometimes you're talking about, and then you realise, what am I worried about? This is nothing.
Yeah. Because we're in our heads.
But you have that other person there to hear you.
Yep.
And sometimes they should say to you, what are you worried about?
There's a really good book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. If you haven't read it, go and read it. There's a really, really cool section that I think back to quite often. And in this section, Tim talks about the concept of, have you already made it? Have you already got what you need? And is there misalignment between your perception of how much money, for example, you think you need versus how much money you really need?
Ah, yes.
So he gets you to do this exercise where you go, just pause and just work out, okay, well, what do you really need in order to survive and live a comfortable life, right? Mm-hmm. Forget about the super yachts and $100 million. Let's just live in the real world and go, okay, well, what does it really mean for you? Because most people, I can pretty much guarantee you, when they go through an exercise like this, will be surprised. They'll actually realize that, you know what? There's a misconception. There's perception that they've created in their mind that I need this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And they go through and they take the time to reflect and they realize that, hang on a second, I'm either already there, I'm close to it, or it's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with business owners over the years, and I told you this story just before this podcast where a friend of mine owned a successful business years ago. And he'd called me up and say, "Oh, Peter, help me, tell me how to make more money, et cetera, et cetera." We'd always have the same sort of conversations. And here's the thing with him was that he was already making a lot of money. He was making more than enough money that he needed, right? Had an expensive house, expensive car, lived an expensive lifestyle. And that is exactly why he was always struggling financially, because he not only lived the expensive lifestyle, but he stretched it too far. So you can make $400,000 or $500,000 a year, which he was making, but if you're spending $600,000
A week.
You know,
sorry, 600 a week at
yeah,
restaurants.
and so in his case, he was spending $600 a week on family meals, and you go like
$50 bottles of
$50
wine.
bottles of wine, and those sort of things.
Yeah.
You go, well, no wonder you don't have enough money. So his perception is, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough, and I need to make more. Whereas the reality is, you're just overspending and spending on futile things
Wasting
you don't
money.
actually need, and you're wasting the money. Exactly. And so then there's the discussion of, okay, well, what's an expense and what's an investment in business? So if you start quantifying or breaking it down, then you go, okay, well, some things are expenses we can get rid of. You don't need the $600 a week bill for family dinners and lunches and things like that.
God, no. Or the $50 one.
Or the $50 whatever it may be.
Or it might be the lease payments on a top of the range BMW.
Right. Superfluous things where you go, well, you don't actually need that.
Yeah.
What if you took that money, right? That let's say that $600 a week on family dinners.
Yeah.
What if you took that money and converted it into an investment and gone, okay, well, $600 a week is $30,000 a year. Where could I invest that money every year in order to generate wealth for me, in order to build my business supplement? And so then you go, okay, well, $30,000 a year, well, you could pay for a business advisor that could coach you and guide you as an example.
Or something else.
Or you could invest in equipment or machinery or upskill your team. Spend $30,000 on their training and development. You're going to get way more than $30,000 on meals. So this is where that whole perception component comes in, where sometimes people say, woe is me and the world is falling apart and I've got all these business problems. And you analyze it. You're like, hang on a second.
Sit down. Yeah.
You've got $5 million worth of assets sitting there. You're cash flow positive. What are you complaining about?
So it's back to the Tim Ferriss thing. It's a bit similar when people are starting to think about retiring and selling out of their small business. So people my age, I'm 63, we think, okay, one day I'm going to sell my business. How much do I need? And quite often the people that we meet need to get this much and their business is only worth this much. They don't want to either acknowledge or recognise that. But you know what? They don't really need this much.
I don't.
That's the Tim Ferriss thing.
Yeah.
If you sit down and really think about what you really need to live forever
That's right.
and be comfortable, you don't need, $5,000 a week coming in. You can probably live really comfortable, good quality life at a more moderate level.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing with that is that if you're thinking that at age 63, I think you've left it
Oh, yes.
too
But
late.
That's the classic thing.
It is. But what should be happening is start building the value in your business and in your personal life early on in your business career. And it's a difficult thing to achieve.
Well, I agree. It's like superannuation. They say start putting money in super when you start working.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't do it till they're 40 or 50 and they get the tax benefit and it's too late.
Yep.
And then they think back and go, God, why I was stupid, Why didn't I do it earlier? It's the same with property. You never get into property early enough,
Yep.
Just people put it off. And I think, just back to that Tim Ferriss thing, not only are most of us thinking we need this much, too much,
Yep.
but the other thing is your business is worth what it's worth. You can improve the value, you can get it ready by preparing, but at any point in time, that's what it's worth.
That's right.
It doesn't move. Just because you need more, it's not going to.
That's right.
It's not going to make the business worth any more dollars. So I think most of us need to be really honest and brutally honest. Truth hurts. We've got to accept the truth. This is what it's worth today.
Yep.
This is what my house is worth. This is what I've got in the bank. This is what my super's worth. This is what my business is worth, and that's it. Don't
right.
manifest this delusional value of things. Be realistic about it. A lot of people don't.
Understanding that realities then today will allow you to go, okay, where do I want to go tomorrow? Where do I need to be? So that's that Tim Ferriss thing. Okay, how much do you need in retirement, for example? And let's say, for argument's sake, you need $2 million in net assets, whatever, in retirement. Let's say today you have $1 million, you have $1 million gap. And the focus is, okay, well, how do we bridge that gap and have a plan, put a plan in place to help you bridge the gap. And it could be through improving the value of the business. It could be through making more money so that you can pay yourself more so you have more value in your superannuation. It could be through more dividends. It could be, engage a financial advisor who helps you buy property, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you understand where you're at, where you want to go, and then put in place a plan, then you're going to be much better off. And then when you see the negativity in the media and you see the negative out there, you take it with a grain of salt, you appreciate and go, okay, I understand some parts of the world are like that, but my reality is different.
Yeah, exactly. So back to that negative media thing. So we are consuming facts and opinion in the media. We need to sift out facts from opinion. But we need to also think about our own psychological reaction to the inputs that we get. So what is fact? What's opinion? Okay, this is the facts. If the economy is going down, if interest rates are going up, let's act rationally. So a lot of people panic. A lot of people, because what can go wrong is what there's driving them. So one of the things I'm seeing right now is there's this minor shift in interest rates. I'm one of those old people. When in my day, I had mortgages at 20%. Sorry, interest loans at 20%. And, I'm one of those people. So it's relatively low. But there's an increase in interest rates. So some people say, I'm shutting down my investment. I'm not spending any money on capital improvements or marketing or whatever it is. And that's usually counterproductive. To take a more holistic, positive, what can go right view of the world is going to probably help you to make better judgments about what to do. And there's another thing I think which is really punishing us as a society and business, and that is that we become cynics. So we don't want to believe good news anymore, and we want to believe bad news. And it seems to be that as you get older, a lot of my older friends love bad stories, bad news. The world's going to hell. But the reality is, a lot of the young kids coming through, the future's in great hands, in my opinion. So, in the old days, pots and pan salesmen could knock on your door and sell you pots and pans, and people would buy it.
Yep.
Now they can't. It's basically because of cynicism. In the old days, I could say to you, "Hey, Pete, isn't it a beautiful day? Not a cloud in the sky." You go, "Sure is, Bruce. Beautiful day."
Now I'm looking around for the
Now,
clouds. Prove me wrong.
I found one.
Right down there.
You're wrong.
Just flickering.
And that satisfies the innate cynic that we've become for some reason. And I think Google's also contributed. So if anyone says something to you, you just sort of feel like, especially if there's in a sales environment, you want to just check it on Google, make sure it's right. And we believe Google so solidly. So there's this, if we look at our psychology, we need to be more open to the opportunity and look for the opportunity and see the opportunity. And this takes me to the next step, which is when things are adverse, like COVID, in 2008, in my business, we saw GFC, things were tough. We actually took a conscious decision to expand and market and promote. Where everyone else is pulling their horns in, I saw it as an opportunity to be proactive, and we grew and we had some of our best years subsequently. So I think business people, we shouldn't be so worried about what could go wrong. We need to balance that with what could go right and see negative situations like high interest rates or whatever as an opportunity.
That's right.
And find the opportunity.
But in order to be able to do that properly, you need to know where you're going. You need to have that plan so that when you're going through challenging times, you bring up your plan and go, okay, this is where I'm going. This is what I want to achieve. And use that as that positive guide. And, just keep pushing forward.
So we commonly talk about plans, right? I reflect on this a lot lately. So one of it was my business partner, Alex. And I used to always be like, we're going to get our business plan. And he... Great, he's done much better than me in business. He's a very clever guy. He used to say, what's the point in making a plan because things will change and you won't use the plan. That was his reason for not doing it. Back then we were naive, we were young. But I've come to learn that you make a plan and things change, but you've got that point to move from. You don't have to stick to the plan. It's like a roadmap. I'm driving from Brisbane to Melbourne. I'm going to go this way. Oh, there's a flood or the road closed. Okay, I go this way now. Without that plan, you're aimlessly just heading off in any direction.
Absolutely.
So it's really, really important to have a plan. Even if you want to change it later on, it's important, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry, and were you going to say that you need someone to help you with those plans?
No.
'Cause,
You
okay,
do
can I
need
add
someone
that?
if you
Yeah.
can.
Hey, let's say I make a plan. I'm going to walk to Perth. I'll tell you about it. You probably say, Bruce, you're 63. You got a bad heart. You're not going to, because I don't. You're not going to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, have you thought about the train? Have you thought, sometimes we need to get advice and feedback from other people about what our plan
We
is.
need to be challenged,
Yeah.
exactly. And then that sort of resets the realities. Because again, sometimes we'll create a plan based on our perceptions, and our perceptions might not actually be real. They might be
Yes.
incorrect based on false information,
Yes.
whatever it might be. An external person sees it and goes, hang on a second, you want to walk to Perth at X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And they pick it apart and help you see the light,
Sometimes they're not picking apart. Sometimes they're adding,
add value.
oh, you want to walk? Why don't you go this way?
Yep.
I know someone.
Yep, I went that way
There's
last
so many
time.
other-
and- Yep.
And how can it hurt by sharing the plan? How can it hurt by having someone else give me some advice? It can't hurt.
Correct.
It can only help.
Correct. So,
So-
I guess the message with today's podcast and video is for you to get out of your head. Sometimes our roadblock is our mind, ourselves. We're our own roadblock.
Yeah.
We interpret things, we decide to take it on, and we interpret it in a negative way, in a certain way that goes against us.
Yeah.
And quite often the best thing that we can do is get out of our head and actually spend some time investigating, well, what is the reality? Where are we
Yeah.
really at?
Yeah.
And be willing to shift and adapt based on what you're seeing, and be willing to change your perception if you're seeing that the evidence is contrary to what you thought was the reality at the time.
That's right.
Your new reality might be quite different.
Yeah. So, and I want to add or finish off on this note, which is in business, you are either growing, stagnating, or dying. You can't be any one other thing. So why would you want to die? Why would you want to stagnate? Surely you want to grow. And the only way to grow really is to see opportunities and be positive and think about what can go right. And one of the best ways to grow that most people don't think about, most people don't think this way because they're not thinking about what can go right. How can I do better? Where's the opportunity? Life is fun and exciting. One of the best ways to grow is through acquisition. So why sit back and stagnate? Why die? Why not grow? Why not see the opportunities? Why not make it an adventure?
You know why? Because that word acquisition, a small to medium business owner will hear it, and it goes beyond them. They're like, oh, well, that's the thing of the big end of town. Big end of town.
Gotta
goes
change
through
that
acquisition.
perception.
And it's not right, is it?
No way. No
And I
way.
often talk about this concept of value building and how do you build value. And acquisitions, M&As, are actually the fourth group in the value building set of things that you can do. So you can be innovative, you can invest, you can go through mergers and acquisitions, and then you've got continuous improvement. They're the four main groups,
Yes.
and they're the areas where you should focus.
Yes.
And acquisitions can be a fantastic way of
Oh,
getting
it's the best way to grow quickly.
especially when everything's so negative.
Yeah.
Because often you can get something for lower than what you could otherwise
Exactly.
get.
So I could be in the concrete construction sector and I could easily grow by buying a business that's losing money, but I get rid of those overheads, I retain the revenue, put it on board, and I'm growing.
100%. We're literally just going through that exercise with a client in New South Wales. We've just gone through the exact same thing. They bought a competitor, added more staff, which in an industry where it's hard to find staff, so all of a sudden they got more labour, more capacity. And because they've been able to absorb some of those costs and they've just streamlined things, they will move forward and they will be more effective and more profitable over the coming years.
Yeah.
So it's a great strategy. And that's not a $100 million turnover business. That's a $2 million turnover business that has been able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you only do that by having the right mindset, which is what can go right? How can I make this work? What opportunities exist out there?
And in order to get there, like in the case of that business, they needed the advisors on board to help them see what's possible, to help them see what they could achieve and get out of their head thinking, spinning that negative wheel, and realize that, you know what, you've got a profitable business that is actually doing well. You've got a good brand in the marketplace. Why don't we capitalize on that right now?
Yeah, exactly. I've got a good car at home, and you once said to me, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can sell it.
Yeah.
And that was such a reassuring thing, because you were a third party, you were able to see my situation. I thought,
Yeah.
well, that's a good idea.
I mean, there's always a solution to most problems. It's just how do we look at it again?
So having that third party point of view.
Absolutely. And I'm just sort of pointing at the cup here, but I guess the way we could probably close today is the question. Ask yourself the question, and when you look at a cup of tea or a coffee, Are you grateful that you've still got tea and coffee in that cup? Or are you going, oh, I don't have enough, or I don't have any? And those two mindsets are very different. If you're looking at it from a positive point of view, then use that energy. And if you're looking at it from a negative point of view, then perhaps dig deep internally and go, okay, well, how do I become more grateful for what I have? And see where the opportunities lie in your business as opposed to just being negative.
Exactly. All right, we've solved the problems of the world.
As always,
no
Bruce.
more negativity, only positivity. So thanks, Pete. That was good.
Thanks, Bruce.
See you
Thank
next
you,
time.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.